Thank you so much for joining us. It's amazing to see so much of our community out here, and it lets us know how important this issue is. Housing, which impacts all of us, whether you're a renter, a landlord, builder, city leader, or concerned resident, your presence here demonstrates the importance of this conversation and our collective commitment to solving that. Tonight, we are here to engage in a thoughtful and inclusive discussion regarding the draft Salinas Rent Ordinance. The ordinance represents a significant step in our community. Housing is a fundamental need. It affects our quality of life, our health, our education, and our economic stability. Yet, for many in Salinas, affordable housing is becoming increasingly out of reach. High rent prices strain families, impact local businesses, and can lead to displacement and instability. On the other hand, landlords face raising costs of property taxes, property insurance, interest rates, and challenges maintaining their properties, while developers and builders navigate complex regulations and financial hurdles in creating new housing. The Salinas Rent Stabilization Ordinance aims to balance these issues and attempts to address an immediate need in rent stabilization. But questions we will discuss tonight are, is this the answer? Will it help increase housing, which is the ultimate cause of why rent is so high, or will it decrease housing? And what are the long-term effects of an ordinance like this? What will happen in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? As we work together in our community, all aspects need to be considered. To facilitate this conversation, we have created a panel-style discussion with representatives from the tenant community, tenants, landlords, local developers, property owners, and property managers. Each panelist will share their unique perspective and concerns, helping us understand the multifaceted nature of this issue. Following the panel discussion, we'll open up for a question and answer session where everyone in the community will have an opportunity to speak and share. As we move forward tonight, let us remember that our goal is to create a community where everyone has safe, affordable, and sustainable housing. This ordinance feels like that step, but it's only one part of a larger issue. Your participation, your ideas, your commitment are essential to this conversation. I want to thank you once again, and let's have a productive, respectful, and solution-oriented conversation. Thank you so much. I'm going to open it up to our first panelist, Jesus Estrada.
The question, is there interpretation?
So Jessica is here for interpretation, so as the panelists speak, she'll be interpreting from Spanish to English, and then we will work the crowd. Anybody else who's willing to volunteer and help with that, we would be very grateful for, but Jessica will help with translating from Spanish to English. Okay? Jesus, please take it away.
Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Jesús Estrada. Soy un organizador de vivienda con centro de abogacía de la comunidad aquí en Salinas.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jesus Estrada, and I'm here as a committee of CCA for housing.
Estamos trabajando desde Pájaro hasta San Nardo, específicamente San Nardo, King City, Greenfield, Soledad y aquí en Salinas, donde tenemos comité de bases, donde estamos trabajando con grupo de inquilinos, enfocando derechos de los inquilinos.
We work from Pájaro all the way to King City and the surrounding towns, where we're working with team members of tenants, advocating for them.
Enfocamos mucho derechos de los inquilinos, responsabilidades de los inquilinos y el plan de paz estratégica que deben hacer si están viviendo en mala condición en vivienda.
We work along with tenants, focusing and advocating for them tenant responsibility issues and teaching them how to advocate for housing issues.
You're not interpreting that correctly. Make sure you interpret word for word.
Los inquilinos tienen responsabilidades,
The tenants have responsibilities,
así como los dueños o propietarios tienen sus obligaciones.
just like the landlords and owners have their responsibilities.
Eso es lo que estamos trabajando y es lo que es las herramientas que nosotros proveemos a los inquilinos.
That's what we're working for. Those are the tools that we're giving to the tenants,
Para que ellos puedan abogar de sí mismos, para que ellos puedan trabajar con los propietarios o dueños,
so that they could advocate for themselves and they could work along with owners and property owners.
cómo resolver el problema donde viven.
How to resolve issues where they live.
Esa es la experiencia que yo he tenido durante esos 3 años trabajando aquí en Salinas.
That is the experience that I have for the past 3 years working here in Salinas,
Más bien el condado de Monterrey.
the Monterey County.
Eso es lo que estamos haciendo. Hemos encontrado muchísimos problemas.
That's what we have been doing. We have found a lot of problems.
De lo que nos dicen los inquilinos, la renta está carísima.
From what the tenants tell us, rent is very expensive.
De una recámara está de 2,700
One bedroom is going for $2,700,
y todavía en mala condición.
and the housing is in bad condition.
Eso está aquí en Salinas.
That is here in Salinas,
También en King City.
also in King City.
Ese es el problema que encontramos.
Those are the problems that we have found.
También lo que dicen los inquilinos es, a veces, algunos propietarios suben más de 10% de lo que la ley dice.
That's what the tenants have been telling us. Also, tenants have said that landlords raise rent more than 10%.
Lo otro que encontramos también es, muchas veces no saben ni quiénes son los dueños, a quién contactar para que arregle algunas cosas que están o surgen donde viven.
Other issues that we have found is that tenants lack the contact information to who to report maintenance issues or who to contact at all.
También hemos encontrado muchísimos problemas de desalojo.
We have also found a lot of issues with eviction.
Ustedes saben muy bien, no todos, pero dan una noticia de desalojo para desalojarlos donde viven porque ellos pagan menos porque ya tienen muchos años viviendo ahí.
So, issues that happen is that tenants are giving eviction notice because landlords want to raise the rent because the, tenants have been living there for a long time and they're paying under the market.
Usa la noticia, voy a remodelar o remoler el edificio, necesito que salga.
They use the notice that I'm going to remodel the apartment in order to get the tenants out.
Pero en realidad sacan esa familia y mete otra nueva familia para que pague más. Eso es lo que está pasando con los inquilinos.
But in reality, they're using the notice as an excuse to get one family out and put another one that's going to pay higher rent. That's what's happening here in Salinas.
Esos son los problemas que hemos encontrado con los inquilinos que nos han dicho a nosotros con que estamos trabajando.
Those are the issues that tenants we're working with have brought up to our attention.
Y también quisiera decirle, como centro de abogacía de la comunidad, hemos organizándonos, hemos abogado o abogando por más viviendas asequibles, porque no hay viviendas.
So that's what I want to let you guys know. As member of CCA, we have been advocating for more affordable housing.
Estamos apoyando de varias iniciativas para apoyo de vivienda, para más viviendas asequibles.
So we have been supporting a lot of measures for more affordable housing.
Eso es lo que estamos haciendo como CCA. Muchísimas gracias.
That's what we've been doing as part of the CCA team. Thank you.
Buenas tardes a todos, mi nombre es Marisela, estoy trabajando con la organización Centro Binacional para el Desarrollo Indígena Oaxaqueño.
Hello, I'm Maricela and I'm working with the CBIO Center for Advocacy for the Oaxacan Community.
Lo que estamos haciendo, trabajando con la comunidad indígena.
What we're doing is working with our indigenous community.
Y sí hemos encontrado muchas injusticias con la comunidad, porque pues no quiero decir por el idioma, pero muchas veces es por eso.
So we have found a lot of injustices within our community. I don't want to say it's only the language, but that's one of the main barriers, the language.
Nos han llegado comunidades de diferentes, que hablan diferentes idiomas y es muchas diferentes situaciones con la vivienda.
We have been working with community members that speak different languages, and we are helping those who speak many languages.
Hemos identificado varios problemas, como por ejemplo cuando las personas ocupan apoyo para mantenimiento de sus apartamentos o casas, y muchas de las veces se tardan los dueños hasta un mes o un año en arreglar solamente una estufa.
So we have found that a lot of issues are regarding maintenance. Sometimes it takes days or months for tenants to get their issues resolved.
Y aparte de que arreglan el mantenimiento, les cobran después de eso les cobran aparte de lo que ya les cobran del mes.
So what we have found is that besides charging rent, once the tenants report an issue, they're being billed to fix those issues.
Y no entiendo yo por qué es el depósito también. Y además hemos identificado a personas que cada mes le están subiendo de $7 a $8.
So I don't understand why landlords ask for deposits. Also, we've been finding that tenants are saying that their rent is being raised $7 to $8 on a monthly basis.
Y mucha de la comunidad ocupa aplicar para un apartamento o una casa, y cuando van a la oficina de los apartamentos siempre les mandan como escanear un QR, y mucha de la comunidad no sabe usar la tecnología.
A lot of times when tenants or individuals are looking for rent, they go to the rental offices and they're having them scan QR codes, which a lot of these individuals do not know how to use that type of technology.
Y deberían de considerar eso porque en Salinas hay mucha comunidad indígena que está trabajando en el campo, y muchos pues están beneficiando a la economía del país. Y pues yo estoy abogando también para que mi comunidad pueda recibir buenos beneficios, porque pues también estamos aportando a la economía del país, de la ciudad de Salinas.
So that's many of the issues that we have found. I'm advocating for my community, because in the Salinas community there is a lot of people who contribute economically to our economy.
Y cuando las personas aplican para una casa o un apartamento y son más de 3 adultos, les cobran de 60 por la aplicación.
So when applicants are applying and they're more than 3 adults, they're being charged $60 per person.
Y si es en línea, les cobran 400 por cada persona.
And if it's online, they're charging $400 per person.
Y la excusa es para que sea ya asegurado para esa persona.
And the excuse they give is that they are holding the unit for that person.
Y lo digo porque sí estuve apoyando, en nuestra oficina sí estamos apoyando para que las personas apliquen para apartamentos, y es lo que siempre hemos visto.
And I'm sharing it from experience, because our office supports people for applications, and this is what we have been witnessing in the application process.
Hey, Jessica, we're gonna volunteer. Thank you.
Y otra de las cosas también es que cuando las personas van a pagar su renta, no lo hacen como directamente con el dueño.
And when the people go to pay their rent, they don't do it directly with the owner.
Y cuando las personas pagan su renta, van como a locales diferentes, y ahí también les cobran para hacer ese pago.
They have to go to different places to pay the rent, and they also charge them to pay the rent.
Y pues la pregunta ¿es justo para nosotros que estamos aportando a la economía, y aún así que nos estén cobrando de diferentes lugares?
And the question is this fair that us that are also supporting the economy, that they're also charging us to pay the rent, that these different places are charging us to pay our rent?
Estamos pidiendo como algo justo, porque sabemos que mucha de la comunidad
We're asking for something fair as part of something, we are part of the community.
casi la mayoría de la comunidad de Salinas está trabajando en el campo.
Most of the community of Salinas is working out in the fields.
Y no todo el año reciben el sueldo que ellos, en meses de temporadas reciben el sueldo, pero pues no todo el año es el trabajo en el campo.
And there's not work all year long in the fields.
Y pues también les pedimos a los dueños que tengan en consideración eso, porque creo que pues es la primera vez que yo estoy aquí, ¿verdad? Pero muchas de las veces he visto muchas injusticias, tanto como yo como la comunidad.
And we ask the owners to have this in mind, because this is not the first time we're seeing these injustices as part of the community, and I am part of the community and I'm here. So, tienes que ir como oración por oración, por si no yo pierdo lo que estás diciendo. Okay, so have this in mind as owners, that when they're working, they're not working all year long, and so this is part of the injustices, and that they're losing this money each time they're going to go pay. So that's the sentiment. And I want to add something that Maricela said. It's completely against the law to be charging $400 for an application fee online or otherwise. There is a law that states what is allowed and not allowed for application fees. And I'll let you know that $60 is over that amount as well. And if anyone here is charging $400, well, we're going to find out. And it is against the law, and you should be sued because you are absolutely taking advantage.
Excuse me, we're not
Thank
here
you.
for election.
No.
All right, okay, we're just gonna keep with the panel style and just translate
Keep going.
what is being.
No, you needed to hear that.
And in public comment, please, Natalie, share
Yes.
your public comment.
Mhm.
Well,
Y perdón por decirlo, pero creo que sí les enoja porque estamos diciendo la verdad, no es mentira.
And we get angry because we're telling you the truth, and it's not a lie.
Y no, bueno, yo no estoy aquí para pelear, solamente estamos aquí para pues quedar en buenos términos si es que nos permiten.
And we're not here to fight. We're here to have to leave in good terms. If you guys. If nos permitan, which means like if you allow us.
Porque
Excuse me, would it be possible to have the clerk translate it back?
No.
He did less commentary. I actually
No.
speak Spanish and.
Well,
I
he's
think he
doing
did a
it too,
better-
so-
I think he did a better job translating.
No. Tell him to be quiet, and then I will as well. No. You need to control the crowd as well.
let's be
Respectfully,
respectful
I
of
didn't
both
mean to have to go
cases.
to the
No,
stand.
shh,
I'd like
sir,
to
be
have-
quiet. Okay, then tell him to be quiet.
Let's keep it down so we can continue the conversation. It needs to be a conversation. So please allow that to happen. Both parties will allow that to happen. She will translate and save her comments for the question and answer because this is an important conversation and we need to be able to have it. We need to be able to talk civil to each other. We need to be able to hear the issues on both sides and allow each other to speak in
Absolutely.
a nice and respectful manner, both
Absolutely.
parties. Okay? That being said, we're going to continue it. We're all adults in the room. Please just continue
course.
the translation.
Y pues otra vez volviendo a lo de la comunidad indígena, sabemos que muchas de las personas que viven en Salinas hablan diferentes idiomas.
A lot of the people that live in Salinas speak different languages.
Y yo vengo a pedir por todos y pues quedar en buenos términos. Gracias.
I come here to speak for all of them in good terms. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Esther Malkin y yo voy a hablar en inglés para darle a Natalie a ver cómo hace translate mejor que yo podía. So my name is Esther Malkin and I am a volunteer organizer with Monterey County Renters United. You just go one sentence.
If you can translate, Esther, you should translate.
Are you going to interpret?
I can't, no, I'm not.
Oh, okay,
So
then
you do the Spanish, I'll do the English.
Estoy Esther Malkin, soy de la Inquilinos Unidos de Condado de Monterrey.
I go back and forth. So I just wanted to, for the record, to state that I have been a homeowner, and I have been a landlord, and I have been a renter.
Por el récord, yo fui un propietario, también un inquilino y también un gerente de las propiedades.
So because of that, I understand a lot of perspectives,
Por eso yo puedo entender un montón de perspectivas,
but at the end of the day, none of us want to see more of our neighbors, residents, and workers become homeless.
pero a fin de día nadie que aquí quiere ver nuestros vecinos sin hogar.
So we all know that there are good renters and not so good renters, just like there are great landlords and not so great landlords.
Pero a fin de día sabemos que hay inquilinos buenos y no tan buenos y también sabemos que hay propietarios que no son buenos y hay otros que son buenos.
So just what Monterey County United has really been doing is a lot of education.
So, lo que estamos haciendo unidos, Inquilinos y Unidos por el Condado de Monterrey es educación.
And when I started this group, it was about 8 years ago, and very little conversation was happening about renters and rent.
Cuando yo empecé ese grupo hace 8 años, yo empecé esa conversación sobre la renta.
And we had to do education of our elected officials as well as to renters and property management companies, and we had conversations over the years with all of them.
Y lo que tuvimos que hacer fue educar nuestros políticos y también los propietarios y también los inquilinos sobre los asuntos que están afectando las rentas.
Most of the elected officials that we spoke to back then and even now really had no idea of what actually was going on out there, because
La mayoría de los políticos que estuvimos hablando no tienen ni idea de lo que estaba pasando en la comunidad,
it's not their world.
porque no es su mundo.
Their friends aren't necessarily renters. They're in a different economic status.
Sus amigos no son inquilinos, están en un estatus económico muy diferente.
So a lot of these elected officials have actually thanked us for educating them.
Son la mayoría de estos políticos nos agradecidos para educar ellos en los asuntos que están afectando a los inquilinos.
And with renters tend to be a silent majority in most cities of the county.
Y para los renteros o inquilinos, la realidad es usualmente son la mayoría de la población en las ciudades.
And the renter voice is not heard as much because there are consequences when the renters speak up, that they won't be able to find another place to live if they're let go, or there's consequences for them that landlords don't have to worry about if they speak publicly.
Y la realidad, hay consecuencias cuando los renteros o los inquilinos hablan y cuando ellos tienen voz, por eso usualmente ellos no hablan.
So when we started about 8 years ago, we got a lot of conversation going in Sacramento and locally. And AB 1482 was passed in 2020, which is where we are now, and for the next 5 years of the annual maximum of 10% raises in rent.
Cuando hemos empezado hace 8 años, eso es donde empezamos con las conversaciones, y hace 5 años, o más o menos 5 años, ha pasado a B 1482, y ese fue un éxito.
Yeah, I mean, we started the conversation.
Ese fue empezó a la conversación de los asuntos que están afectando a los inquilinos.
And many of the things that we told them would happen if renters couldn't afford their rent and if workers had to leave the area happened in 2020 with the COVID.
Y muchas de las cosas que nos dijeron que va a pasar y va a afectar a los inquilinos, en realidad pasó si ellos no pusieran más protecciones para los inquilinos.
So we saw that protection helped the workers and the people that needed the protection by proving economically and otherwise that we need to have some sort of rent protection at the same time as we add inventory of rental units.
Yeah, I need you to go sentence by sentence.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so just like back up.
So,
It's okay, let's keep going.
so we know for a fact that homelessness has increased as rents have increased.
Sabemos por un hecho que cuando las rentas suben, también la gente sin hogar sube.
And nobody benefits from homelessness being on our streets, our business streets, our neighborhoods, or otherwise.
Nadie benefició cuando hay más personas sin hogar.
And many of the people that are homeless are working.
Muchas de las personas sin hogares también tienen trabajo, están trabajando,
They just can't afford rents.
pero no pueden ganar suficiente para alcanzar, para pagar las rentas.
We also see that many of the people who are homeless are seniors on fixed income.
Muchas de las personas también que no tienen casa, los que están sin hogares, son gente de la tercera edad.
And most people are on fixed incomes.
Y la mayoría tiene ingresos fijos.
So it's easy to think that an increase, however much it is possible for a renter to afford.
Es fácil a pensar que cualquier subido en la renta es fácil para el inquilino a pagar, pero no lo es.
And the reality is that a 10% maximum increase in rents are going to come from where when a renter has a job.
Pero la realidad es como dónde va a pagar, dónde va a sacar ese dinero para los renteros, dónde va a sacar ese dinero para pagar la extra renta cuando ellos no están recibiendo más dinero o cuando no hay trabajo.
So it's a disproportionate problem that we're having with what the expectations of landlords needing or wanting increases, that workers and renters are not getting increases in their wages.
Es un problema básicamente que no hay una solución porque el pago, los salarios no aumenta lo mismo porcentaje que aumenta las rentas.
But at the end of the day, we do have to concentrate on building more simultaneously as talking about the rent going up too much.
Pero en el fin de día tenemos que hablar de ese asunto
That the rents are too. We have to work on it simultaneously as the rents, to keep the rents
work on what simultaneously.
of building more units.
Pero al mismo tiempo tenemos que hablar en cómo desarrollar más casas mientras las rentas están subiendo.
And obviously renters can't really do anything about making us get more units built.
Y obviamente los renteros no pueden hacer nada en el desarrollo de más casas.
So we do have to talk about that at the same time with our elected officials and make it easier for building to happen, but we can't not look at the rents.
Entonces tenemos que hablar al mismo tiempo con los políticos en el asunto de desarrollar más casas, mientras también estamos hablando de poner un límite en las rentas.
And lastly, I'll say
Y
that
últimamente me voy a decir,
we have historic inflation right now,
ahorita tenemos una inflación que históricamente es alta
and people can't afford food
y
and
gente no
medicines.
puede pagar por la comida.
So when it comes to these rent increases, landlords are covered by the CPI, which is usually built into increases.
Los dueños están cubiertos por la inflación que está incluido en los aumentos de renta.
Because the rent ordinances are usually, I haven't seen anything other than CPI plus a percentage. And that's put in there so that it covers the higher costs that landlords are having, as well as the higher costs that renters are having.
Porque en todas las ordenanzas por lo menos incluye la inflación.
Thank you.
Gracias. Okay. Then let me take a break and Jessica can do it. Because it's hard to interpret for a long time and I get tiring of my brain. And then nobody will understand me.
Time for a break now.
And Jessica can do it for a minute.
I'm gonna say, like, we're just like any other public meeting, like anywhere you go, if you're gonna need an interpreter, you're probably gonna sit with one. We're just gonna speak in English, and it's more or less just sort of, we have to keep a very tight frame. We're conservative, a lot of these people have families and have to get back to.
Well,
So we're gonna
other
speak
people
English.
won't be able to understand, so Jessica can just swap with me for a minute.
I mean, I don't know about you, but it's gonna be extremely difficult, I think.
Well,
And I
then
know we're not gonna agree.
you're not gonna include everybody in the conversation.
I mean, sometimes not everybody speaks Spanish perfectly, where they're gonna have to come in with the headset, or they're gonna have to
But you
understand
guys
that.
didn't provide interpretation.
And no, I did not, but what's gonna have to happen is we're gonna speak English, and
Well, then I
how
think
many
then most people will
how many
leave.
people do not understand at all any English, right? And maybe we can go to one section of the room and have somebody interpret so that we can go ahead and continue with the meeting so we can be more effective. We have a lot of stuff to, I think, address in a very short period of time. Because we want to get to public comment.
Yeah, Hugh, I would like you to.
You guys aren't gonna
That's right, you're supposed to.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Hugh, please go ahead and share your thoughts. We had Jessica here, but I think she has left, so that's where we are as far as interpretation at this moment. If Natalie needs to let her voice rest.
Is this on? Yeah. My name is Hugh Walker, Vice President of Creek Ridge Homes. I think most people are familiar with Creek Ridge Homes area. I've been with that company for 37 years, so I have a lot of history. I actually started on Creek Ridge in 1987 when it broke ground. So I've been around there a long time. So the company wears the hat of being developer and landlord, because we own the retail center and we own several hundred apartments that have been built around Creek Ridge, within Creek Ridge on Constitution and Independence. I'm going to address
What was your name once again, sorry?
Hugh, H-U-G-H, Walker.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Talking a little fast. Apologize. So I'm going to touch on a little bit of the shortage and why, the numbers have obviously, rent increases and housing prices have gone through the roof in the last 8 or so years. And it's because there's anything being built, right? So it's simple economics. If there's a supply out there, the numbers stay flat or down. If there's a demand, the numbers go up. And right now there's a massive demand in Salinas. Nothing's really been built in Salinas. Apartments, I built a couple of units of 70 some odd units of apartments in Creek Ridge, but other than any large apartment complexes, there haven't been any built other than the nonprofits with CHISPA over the last probably 20 years. Single family home wise, the last project, and it finished up, 10 plus years ago, is Montebella, which is off of Williams Road, over by LSL High School in that area. So, and everyone's saying, well, why isn't there any housing being built? You can't just get out and just start building housing. There's a process. There's a whole CEQA process, specific plans and things like that have to get done. In 2003, this is some history for you all. In 2003, we started, the city and property owners in the north area of Salinas, on the north side of Baranda, started on the specific plans and the processing of what would be the next 25 years of growth for the city of Salinas. This was started in 2003, folks. Everything was moving down the road pretty quickly. Everyone thought that we were going to be breaking ground sometime in like 2010, 2011. Then there was the big housing market crash of 2008-9. Everything came to a stop. Nobody knew what was going on. There was a lot of people, developers that had property optioned in those areas on the north side of Baranda. They dropped their options and left because they had no idea when this would heal up. We had never seen anything like this before. A lot of developers were lucky to even stay in business. There was a lot of them that went out of business. So that front lasted till 2013, and when we started working on the specific plans, again for that, the whole north area of Salinas. They call it the future growth area of Salinas. All of this, by the way, is online. It's all on the City of Salinas' website for future projects. So starting in 2013, but because it was a 5-year hold, a lot of the folks that were working on these projects on the city side either quit, retired, went on to different jobs. So when we got back into it, we're dealing with all new people. So guess what we're doing? We're starting over, like from scratch. So we're redoing biological studies, redoing traffic studies, redoing noise studies, redoing all kinds of things and paying for everything twice. So we finally get to this stage where we get approved in the west area specific plan, got approved in 2019. The central area specific plan, and I'll back up a little bit here. The west area specific plan goes from San Juan Grade Road, where the Lowe's is, over to Natividad, and as far north as where the new high school is, roughly. The central area specific plan goes from Natividad over to what would be the extension of Constitution. If you took Constitution and extended it across Miranda and headed towards Old Stage Road, that is what is considered the central area specific plan. There is an east area specific plan that extends from the Constitution all the way to Williams Road, but they're not even working on that. The landowners, when we started back up again on our specific plans, the east area specific plan landowners said, we don't want to have anything to do with it, we're just going to sit on our property for now. So we've gone through the process. We got our approvals in 2019, 2020. Both west area and central areas got hit with lawsuits right after from the school districts. And just this year, in last fall of 2023, the west area won their lawsuit. And the central area, we won our lawsuit just about 2 months ago, actually. So, things are moving forward. There is going to be new growth in the future growth area of Salinas. It just has taken a lot of time to get there, and for a lot of conditions that were really out of the city's control and out of our control, there was a big delay, which is, I mean, we should have been building houses back in that north area in 2006, 2007. As a builder, building in Salinas, the last house we built was in 2003. That's a long time ago. We've built some apartments since then, and the retail center and things like that. So, I would say you're going to start to see some groundbreaking mid to late 2025, summer or fall of 2025, hopefully, and then start getting some single-family homes, condos, apartments, there's a mix of everything in the future growth area to be built. If you haven't attended any of the meetings or seen any of the approvals that happened, all the areas have a mix of different levels of low, medium, and high density. There's going to be condos, which haven't been built in Salinas forever. There's going to be townhouses. There's going to be 3, 4, 5-story tall condos and apartments. There's going to be a lot of apartments and a lot of single-family homes. So again, that's why it's the next 25 years worth of growth. It's just taken a long time to get there and a lot of finances to get there. So it's really not going to take any effect, I don't think, on the market for probably a few years until we start getting a substantial amount. My personal opinion is that, and having done this for such a long time, is that as soon as we start getting houses, condos, apartments, it's going to affect rents, and it's going to affect the sale of houses, the price of houses. If the house prices aren't flat, this is my opinion, I'm not an economist, but I've been building houses for a very long time and doing this for a long time. My feeling is that you're going to get a lot of folks that can move out of apartments, that are waiting for houses to be built, to move out of apartments and get into some housing. And you're going to get some people moving out of housing that is 20, 25, 30 years old, they want a new house and they're going to start moving out. So it's going to be the move up ladder like it was and how it's normally been when you have a supply of housing and residents on the market. That happens everywhere, though. That's fair housing doesn't allow you to discriminate against anybody coming in to buy homes or rent or whatever. So just like fair housing takes precedence in the apartments and things like that, also when you're renting. Let's see. Oh, for the. So I see a lot of signs around. I'm going to put my landlord hat on now. Hopefully that addressed some of what the supply and demand is and what might be coming in the future for new construction. But my landlord hat, and I see a lot of this 2% signs up. 2% doesn't cover anything close. Our average expenses increase 5% a year. Trash, sewer, power, subcontractors' fees, property taxes, insurance, all the expenses that it takes to run a property, employee costs. We like to take care of our employees. All of Fort Creek Bridge, anyway, this isn't for all of the properties out there, but every property manager and maintenance guy that works on a Creek Bridge property is a direct employee of Creek Bridge. We don't sub out our property management or our maintenance. Except for some plumbing issues and things like that you have to, big jobs and things like that. But, I mean, ours is a minimum of 5%. At 2%, we're going to end up with landscaping dying because you got to cut back on the water. You have to figure out where you're going to make cutbacks. Then all of that nice property on the Creek Bridge apartments are going to start looking very ugly and bare and old and run down. And then we're going to have upset employees because they're not going to get the increases that they've had over the past and get taken care of like they are. Not going to be able to keep the pool open. There's a lot of different things that are going to happen if you can't maintain the properties. And it takes expenses to maintain them. Now, $2,700 for a one-bedroom apartment? That's ludicrous. I'm sorry. We're not even close to that. So we have very few move-outs because our rents are pretty fair, and people know that if they go to Palm Court, Plaza Club, North Point, Cypress, wherever they're going, that it's going to be more to go there than they are at ours. And my mindset is I'd rather be a little bit lower and not have turnover and spend the money on lost rent and maintenance. I'd rather keep the people in the units than have turnover. But 2% would absolutely kill our next projects that we've built. I think that's it.
Good evening, my name is Amy Salina. I am a local property manager. I was born and raised in Salinas, and I really want to hear what your thoughts are out there, so I'm really looking forward to our public comment. Just something short, right? Most of my property owners increase their rents because they have to, right? As soon as they enacted 1482, which is 5% plus CPI, nowhere does it state 10%, so it's 10% is the max that can happen. This is for multifamily, and this is for corporate owned. So single families are not a part of that regulation. I think the biggest part of our community issues is a lack of education. That's why I want this open forum. It's hugely the lack of education. So again, it's 5% plus CPI. Today, it's 9.2%. That's today. That's what they can increase your rent. Now, back in 2019, when this was brought on, it was only 7%. So the lack of education is where our issue is for a lot of our tenants, or many people. I hear I made notes along the panel, right? Most of the stuff is like the lack of education, maintenance issues. Yes, there's affordable housing, right? Well, And it's not an individual property owner's responsibility to provide affordable housing. Everybody needs to understand that. Many people who are property owners, this is their retirement. This was their 401k. This is how they live, right? So, I'll give you a very good example. This is my dad's retirement. My dad owns 2 houses, chose to invest as this is his retirement, and this is how he lives today. If he doesn't have a rental, he can't pay for his power for his house, and he can't pay for his extended care. This is a lot of my property owners, right? Not everybody's rich. Everybody thinks a property owner or a landlord is rich. That's not the case. This is their business, or this is how they decided to retire. What we need to know is, really, there's property taxes. Property tax value goes up 1% for the value of the property, right? So if your value of your property, let's just say the average of a house in South Salinas is $850,000. That property tax goes up 1%, not of what their income is, of 1% of what their property tax is. 90% of my owners' property taxes go up, I should say not property taxes, but I'm sorry, insurance went up this year. 100%. 100%. So when they were paying $2,000 in insurance last year, now they're paying $4,000, right? Do you honestly think that a landlord's going to write a check out of their pocket to help a tenant afford their rent? No, that's not going to happen. The cost gets assumed by the tenant, right? We all pay the same amount of gas here. We all pay the same amount for Republic services because it's an anomaly. This is what we pay. Or monopoly. It's 35%. 35% it went up last year. That was Republic services. We all pay for the same for gas, for our PG&E, because we only have PG&E. Everybody needs to understand inflation happened for every single one of us, not just tenants. So those expenses are going to be passed over to the tenants, right, or anybody, or a property owner, or anybody else. I'm a tenant. My bills have gone up. My rent has gone up. So I really need everybody to understand those things. So those things are going to be passed on to every single person. And ever since 1482 was enacted, I gave all of my tenants a questionnaire, and I do have tenants in the seats here, and I asked them, has your rent gone up more or less since 1482? My owners are worried about their property values, and those tenants answered. Had they been asked to pay for additional utilities that they used to not pay for utilities for? Because my owner needed to figure out how to recoup some of their expenses. These are all of the things that are coming through, but with a lack of education, I educate my tenants, right? Everybody needs to educate. Most of our property managers educate. It's our individual landlords that don't always educate. You have to have a capital improvement. People need roofs on their houses. They have to save money for that and be able to build that up so that they have enough money to put a new roof on. I have tenants here that have been there for 20 years. I would love to put new flooring in her house for her. I have to show the owner that they make enough money that I can put flooring in her house for her. I want that. She wants that. She's an excellent tenant. But if they're not making enough money to pay their bills, how are they going to continue to improve their property? So then we're going to have dilapidated units that are not going to be cared for. The tenants don't deserve that. Property owners are not going to be able to maintain their housing, and then we're going to have a housing market very similar to Oakland or San Francisco. I don't want that for my community. I don't think anybody does want that for our community, and that's something that I'm extremely concerned about. I want my kids to be able to live here, and I have told my children, I have children from the ages of 7 to 23. I have 4 of them, by the way, and I've educated my children. If you do not make enough money to live here, you will have to move. And that's because there's not enough housing here. It's very expensive here. This is a very sought after area. So hopefully my children will decide to educate themselves enough. My son, for example, is a firefighter. He's going to figure out what he's going to do to figure out how to make enough money to hopefully stay here. And if not, he has to move. That he'll be able to support his family. You got to think in your head, who can afford to live in Salinas or Monterey County in general? How much money do you have to make? Right? It's supply and demand. The more supply, the less demand. It's all relevant. Probably not everything you guys want to hear.
So I'm going to touch on one more thing that I did not mention because she brought it up as inclusionary housing. The future growth area is all subject to, actually any new housing over 14 units is subject to inclusion of providing for inclusionary housing. So once everything starts getting built in the future growth area, there's a timing mechanism on when the units start becoming available. You can't just build out all your market rate and then provide for inclusionary. So they're going to be brought on while things are either for sale or for rent. And it's roughly someplace between 15 and 20%, depending on there's options to choose. So there will be inclusionary rental units coming on in the future. There will be inclusionary for sale up to about 20% of the for sale will be inclusionary affordable housing. I didn't touch on that earlier, but that's information that you should know.
Hi, my name is Nelson Vega, and I'm owner of a couple apartments, large apartments in this area. But let me address the real problem in the room. The problem in the room that I see.
Can't hear you.
Closer. Okay. The real problem in the room is it appears to me to be farm worker housing. In other words, people that work in the fields and produce all the produce for us and do all the work in the fields don't make enough money. That is not a landlord problem, that's an employer problem. Employers on this peninsula know how expensive things are. So it's going to take an interest in the employers that employ these people and the people that get paid. Because I pay my employees substantially because most of them are they're carpenters and sheet metal guys. They know how to do multiple things, tile setter. I use them all. And these skilled workers probably average $40, $50 an hour because they're very skilled at what they do. What we have here is people that are providing the produce in this area who aren't getting enough money. But that's not a landlord problem. And it's unfair to say, okay, the landlord is going to pay for all this. That's unreasonable. This is an issue, this is an employment problem. It's not a housing problem. The fact that we don't have enough housing goes back 40 years because that inclusionary housing that this gentleman has to provide has to be paid by the other 80% of those tenants there. So their cost for that housing went up 20% to subsidize the 20% who got a discount. I made this back when it was a mayor from here, Caballero. I made that argument with them when she was a mayor in Salinas, and it went right over her head. And it escalates the cost of housing. Mr. Walker, when he gets a bid from some lumber company, that lumber comes in, it's got a price. It's got labor that's added to it, it's got government cost into it, etc. At the end of the day, he can't build one house unless he can substantially show that there's going to be a margin of profit for that investor who would put out all that money. This is, we're not in a field where we're a charity. We're a business. We have to have margins, we have to produce, we have to do X, Y, and Z. And it's very expensive today to provide what it costs for that apartment. If you were to take that apartment today in Salinas, they probably average, I would say probably $240,000. $240,000 for one bedroom to a two-bedroom unit is what they go for today. When you do a cap rate, a reasonable rate of return, we can't even get the rent at that number because 40% of all expenses go right down to improving that property to make it habitable for that person. 40% of the rent goes back into something that the tenant uses. That leaves 60% to pay for building it. It's not enough money. That's why you're seeing these issues. And every time we turn around and the government asks us more for garbage service, sewer bill goes up, they add all these things, and they just send us the bill. Well, we have to take that bill and divide it up and send it to the tenants. And that's why you have these increases of 5 and 6 and 7%. The government today has put inflation upon us, like when Mr. Walker goes to pick a 2x4, or I go get a 2x4, and it used to be $1, and it's now $2.45 or $3, or a piece of plywood that went from $20 in the middle of the pandemic to $100 a sheet. It's got to be paid for. Well, the tenant is going to end up eating that cost over a period of time. He doesn't pay for it all at one time. So it's expensive, and I don't think people realize the cost of government that's put down on all of us to provide this. And when there isn't enough money, gentlemen like Mr. Walker, who's in the development field, don't build units. Because unless you can show the owners of that company that there's a profit margin that's reasonable, etc., they're not going to put another shovel in the ground and build another unit. And that's the economics of this. And it's a hard reality. But that doesn't mean that all these people that are here that appear to be more in the lower end of the economic scale don't deserve nice, clean housing, reasonable housing, and to be treated fairly. What I've heard these items here about how they've been treated is despicable. I don't treat tenants like that. I don't think they should be treated like that either. But at the end of the day, it's all about economics. It's not that Amy or Mr. Walker or anybody else up here are trying to fleece people. We're looking for a reasonable return on our investment because we're putting a lot of dollars. And there's a lot of landlords that are probably in this audience that understand exactly what I say. They put a lot of time and effort, and they deserve to get a fair return on their money. Just like an employee, when he goes to work, is entitled to a fair return on his labor. And if he's not getting it, he should get up and walk to someplace else where they will pay him that. Now, granted, some people can't. They only have certain skill sets they have. That's what government's for, not the landlords. The government should be in the business of taking the people that can't afford these rents and subsidizing them. I pay enormous taxes. I'm sure Mr. Walker and his company pays enormous taxes just like everybody else. But this is not a landlord responsibility. The government should be stepping in and helping people that can't pay their rent because they've fallen through the cracks. Okay? That's how this society should work. We should not let people live in substandard housing or dangerous housing, etc., etc. But at the same token, they should be responsible that when they turn something over to them, that if they're not taken out, that we should have the right to have them leave because they're not taking care of something that we've entrusted. At the end of the day, we have paid $250,000, $300,000, and we have a $300,000 item, and now I'm going to put it in their hands for what? An $1,800 deposit? Go out and buy yourself a Ferrari and tell them that you'll rent it to them for $1,800. You'd be crazy. You wouldn't do that. So keep in mind, these homes that we put together, all these landlords here and developers and contractors and everything, they cost a lot of money to do. And if you want to see more, you're going to have to get rents that are relative to the cost for them to build them. Or Mr. Walker, and he'll tell you this, is not going to build them unless the bottom line says they're going to make some money, because they're not in the business to lose money. They will just not build. And that's the reality that we have to face, that all of us have to put our effort to say, what's reasonable? If you bring rent control to Salinas, and I know it looks real appetizing, you will destroy the housing market much quicker than anything else, because no one will build in a rent-controlled environment. It's just not suitable, and it's been proven since the day of time. Rent control, if you study rent control, started back during the war, World War I, World War II, when they had a problem that was greater that this country had to have, but it was not maintained. If you go to New York and see how many buildings actually were torn down or actually are boarded up today because the landlord can't even afford to fix it because he can't get rent, that's what rent control will do. It will destroy this community. Like I told my colleagues recently, was we should hope to get the areas in East Salinas that are substandard to raise them up like the site on what I call West Salinas over here. This is the goal for this community. It shouldn't be the goal to rent control. Rent control will not bring you a better community. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Helps to protect tenants. Some of these stories we heard up here are crazy. 1 bedroom for $2,700 a month. Can I get a show of hands of how many tenants are in the room that rent from an owner directly? Can you help me? Do we need to translate that into Spanish?
In Spanish, what did you say?
Yes.
¿Cuántos niños hay?
Directly from owners.
That one.
¿Cuántos renteros hay aquí?
No, that's not,
I don't, wait, what do you want me to ask?
How many renters rent directly from the owners?
¿Cuántos renteros aquí rentan directamente de los propietarios? No soy intérprete, this is why I didn't want to interpret.
no, that's because there was nobody else.
Okay. Can I see a show of hands of how many are rent from a property manager? It looks relatively balanced outside of the property managers themselves in here, between the owners and not. Okay, let's put our hands up and I will walk down the microphone. So go ahead and put your hands up for any questions that you may have for our panelists, comments you would like to make, solutions that you can offer to the community to continue this conversation. Okay, I saw your hand go up first.
I just have a comment. I'm very saddened with what I hear about landlords. I am a landlord myself, and having sat at the chamber meeting, I was horrified to hear these stories. I think it's disgusting what's going on in this community as far as rent. And being a landlord myself, I can
Madam,
tell
are you
you.
saying it for everyone or just for Jesus? Then don't use the microphone. But if you want to say it for everyone, that's fine, and we can wait. You choose. Okay, well, let's let her speak, and then we'll see if anyone wants to volunteer from there.
But I would like to say the other side of the story. My rents, and I have 3 places, there is never anywhere close to that rent. And I recently, and I'm going to talk about last year, had a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. That was $1,800 a month, and it was immaculate. And I have a property manager who keeps my properties immaculate. I pay the water, I pay the sewer, I pay the garbage, I pay Target, I pay for the landscaping, I pay for everything. But the reality is, when that person moved out, I had $16,000 worth of damage, and I have a loan on that property at almost 6%. So I have a 6% loan on that property, and I am paying all of this, and I get hit for $16,000. So it isn't glittering gold when you are a landlord. Please understand that we try to be fair. And that was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and it was not $2,600 or $2,700. Now this year, I had a studio. Had a Section 8 in there as a studio. I just got hit with $11,000 worth of damages on a studio. That's over $26,000 in 2 years. And I am still paying all those things, and my property taxes are going up, and my insurance are going up. You don't have to be a genius to figure out how much money I'm making, and it's not much. So 2%, I'll sell my property. You know, you can't do this. You can't do 2%. And the housing in Salinas should not be on the backs of landlords. We have a housing crisis that is not going to get fixed by going after the landlords, and you're only going to be able to go after those that have property managers, because you're asking for information from property managers. There are thousands of people that are collecting rent here and not paying taxes and are doing it under the carpet, but it shouldn't go on our backs who are legitimately trying to help people, who are trying to keep rents down. You can't do this to legitimate property owners who are not trying to be vicious to people. We're just trying to pay our bills also. That's all I have to say.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Salinas. I'm a local business owner, property owner. Buenas tardes, me llamo Salvador Jiménez. Soy un empresario aquí en Salinas y propietario. First and foremost, I'm hearing us both speaking the same language. Los dos tenemos la misma preocupación, que los dos estamos hablando el mismo lenguaje. So what I want to reiterate is we both have the same common concern. It's a supply and demand issue. El problema es que no hay bastante inventario para la gente que busca vivienda. So el problema es con nuestro gobierno local, with our local government. La presión no es contra los dueños de las viviendas. The issue isn't against the property owners. It's our local government. We cannot build quick enough, like Mr. Walker said. It takes 3 to 4 years to try to build a single property. It takes us red tape. Nos toca 13, 4 años para poder hacer una casa. El costo de hacer una casa es algo afuera de normal. Por eso están mirando los costos. And what I'm saying is, the cost to build a home, the red tape is so extremely high that the end user is going to pay for it. La batalla no es con los dueños de las casas. Sí hay gente que es injusta. The challenge isn't with the property owners. Yes, you do have some good property owners and some horrible property owners. But that's why you have CRLA. There's programs, hay programas ahí que defiende a la gente si hay este problema. El problema con la gente que mantiene sus propiedades, the people and the landlords that maintain the properties, no nos deben atacar. Nosotros estamos dando nuestro inventario para que ustedes puedan tener buena vivienda. We shouldn't be attacked. We are providing a service back at home, back to somebody to live in, and we do our part. Hay unos que no lo hacen. There are some that don't do it. I understand that. Yo lo he mirado. I have seen it. Vivido aquí, I am from a local farm-working family. We understand that, the housing crisis. Yo vengo de campo. Mi familia viene de campo. Entendemos las batallas de la vivienda. Nosotros necesitamos poner presión on the local government. We need to put pressure on the local government. What does that mean? It's the building and planning department that's the problem. You can't get anything across there for a minimum of 1 year to get an appointment. La batalla es con el building department, planning department, que no podemos tener ni appointments para hablar. Go look at our town. They say we have a homeless problem. No tenemos un problema de homelessness. Tenemos un problema de drogas. We have a drug problem in Salinas, outside of everything else. And our local council isn't doing anything about it. La presión tenemos que ir con nuestro gobierno local y poner la presión que nos dejen picar, porque le voy a decir una cosa, es simple números, they're simple numbers. Hay 1,000 personas peleando por 5 viviendas. There's 1,000 people fighting for 5 living spaces. The numbers will never add up. Poniendo el 2% no alcanzamos a pagar los gastos. The 2% cap will not pay our cost of keeping these units to par. Aseguranza de limpio, propiedades de property tax, property tax double. Put pressure on them to lower those costs and see what they do. Vayan al concilio y díganles que bajen el costo de basura, electricidad y todo lo demás, a ver qué les dicen, especialmente las taxis de las propiedades. La presión nos viene a nosotros, the property values will hurt us if we don't keep with inflation. Secondly, the cost to keep the property is out of round. The property taxes are crazy. If we want to push back, let's push back with our county lower property taxes. That's not going to happen. Why is that? Because that's their pocket. Yet we as a community are going to take the hit, along with the renters. Yo estoy también con ustedes, si el costo está muy alto, ¿cómo podemos eliminar ese costo? Más inventario, más viviendas, más ADU units, más H2A housing. Todo eso es una combinación que va a ayudar a bajar el precio, porque cuando tienes 1000 casas y 5 personas que ocupan, el costo va a bajar. What I'm saying is, we need more inventory. If you get 1,000 homes and 5 applicants, guess what? Our prices will adjust. It's simple in economics. And right now, it's broken. Ahorita está quebrado. Esto no va a cambiar hasta que nuestro gobierno local, el condado y la ciudad de Salinas se pongan a las pilas. Thank you.
Like to encourage everyone in this room, every organization to join together to form the talks with the county and with the city so that we can create pre-planned duplexes, pre-planned architectural plans for a 4-plex, 6-plex, so that all our builders have to go in and get these stamped architectural plans, cut out the red tape, and if we work together, we can put pressure on our city to make things like that happen. So if anyone would like to continue that conversation on further, start a separate meeting in order to make that happen, I would love to do that. Happy to give my number to everyone.
Hello everyone, my name is Aira. I'm one of the individuals here in Salinas. I've been hearing a lot of what's been shared, right, including some of the interruptions that were shared, some of the interruptions that took place when one of our speakers were talking, and that only shows the level of privilege and entitlement that's in this room. As a woman of color, as a Native woman, I'm here to tell you all that we have families that get paid very minimum wage. We have mothers sleeping with their children in a car because they work full-time and yet they can't make enough money to pay rent. I have been living in my apartment for the past 4 years. It started out with $1,400 and now the new lease is $1,800. There's roaches in that apartment. 1-bedroom apartment. I'm a university student. I've been working in a nonprofit for the past 7 years working in the community. And I can tell you all the injustices. And you all are worried about you guys can make ends meet? You guys are property owners. Get it together. You guys say that you guys work for the community, that you all have farm workers, that you guys come from farm working families. Really? It does not show. It really does not. If any of you all want to sign up and go with me to the tracks to see how many single mothers are trying to make ends meet, then let's go. We can go tomorrow and I can show you all the injustices. I can show you how there's 4 families living in 1 garage. You all want to put pressure on the city, you all need to put pressure on the state too. It's just not the same. That's the way it works with the inflation that's going. Can you all meet us at least halfway? Come on, living in Salinas is more expensive than living in San Francisco. What is that? You guys want to see statistics? We can provide you all statistics. You want to show data? We can provide you with data. The numbers don't lie. Your stories and your BS does. Well, I'm done.
Good evening, everybody. Sunny Singh. I'm a property owner, renter, and I'm also having to work as a property appraiser for the California State. So I just have a quick question, a very general question. I see, I'm sorry I missed your name, the nice lady in the green, the gentleman, and you guys pretty much summed up all my points that I was going to make. And I see a lot of comments from the renters and very valid comments, but the general issue of not knowing the systems and lack knowledge. Yes, there's also the issue of you guys don't have representation, or landlords who don't understand the rules. My question is there anyone from the city here? Is there the city attorney, the mayor, anyone making decision, or we all left to fight amongst ourselves while somebody else makes the decisions on what the percentage is going to come out to?
My name is Chuck. I've been a property manager, real estate broker in this city since about 1987. Okay. Most of the landlords, well, let's go back to the complaints that we were hearing. We got cockroaches. They don't fix nothing. There's a system that takes care of that. Code enforcement. If you don't have acceptable standard of living in your rental, you can file a complaint and they will have an officer come out, validate it, and have it corrected. The fire department goes out and checks apartments. Oh, and they don't do this for free. They charge a couple of $100 to walk around an apartment building to tell you everything's okay or your fire extinguisher's out of date. I'm also a property manager. I just moved a renter out of one of my units. He rented a 3-bedroom house in South Salinas and he paid $2,200 a month. But when I went over for the inspection, I opened up the storage shed, and he had rented it to a couple who had a bed, a bedside table, and a recliner. No water. It's a 1-bedroom, no bath, nothing. And he liked that so well, he built another shed beside it and rented it. And when I found the locks on the bedroom door, it was because he was renting out the bedrooms. The work that I had to do to restore that house after kicking him out was $20,000. And he was getting a very reasonable rent at $2,200 in South Salinas for a 3-bedroom. And I've lived in my house for 25 years. I haven't painted it, I haven't replaced the faucet, and I haven't replaced my flooring. But yet, when I have a rental unit, I go in there, I get multiple calls about a leaky faucet or damage done to things. And I mean, it's just unbelievable. I would say maintenance cost is probably 20%. And it's not because there's substandard equipment there. They get the same kind of things that I use at home, but it costs extremely more. Now, I'll tell you about rent control and what it's going to happen. Go to Santa Monica, go to Santa Cruz, go to San Francisco, 3 of the most expensive places for renters, and they all have rent control. So, and here's the other thing. I'm also a real estate broker. I've had clients for many years that have had rentals. I sold one on San Marcos. They said they wouldn't put up with rent control. They won't put up with the city meddling in their business. We sold it. They called me up and said, okay, sell the one on O'Connor Circle 2. Sell the one in Moss Landing. And I'm closing escrow at the end of the month on one on Lowell. And what the owner's comment was, I'm not putting up with their nonsense. She moved to Casper, Wyoming. She sold all her rentals and she bought others. My daughter owned an Acosta Plaza unit. She sold it. The rent was $2,200. Now, because it changed hands, the new owner is renting it for $3,500 for a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath, which is quite reasonable. What did my daughter do with her money? She did a 1031 exchange, tax deferred, and went to Florida, a place called Palm Coast. She has a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2,400 square foot, and she paid $367,000 for it. And it rents for $29.50 a month. And you talk about they don't pay much in San Francisco? You think that that's cheap? My son lives there, he pays $3,000 for a 1-bedroom. My daughter lives in New York City, in the Bronx. She's got a 496 square foot apartment, and she pays $3,200 a month. There are costs, and I'm going to tell you right now, when I rent my houses and units, I don't wait very long, and the first woman that sees the kitchen and the bathroom, their husband has no chance. He's moving there. It's just that simple. And they love it. I even had one tenant who had lost a house in foreclosure. She's moved into a condo over on Polk Street. When her husband went out and bought a house, without consulting her, he just went over and signed the contract. When he got home, she said, I don't want to move from here. I like it right where I'm at. It's 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, that's all we need. But she ended up moving, but she didn't want to move because she had granite countertops, a 5-burner stove with a griddle in the middle, and an LG refrigerator. She didn't want to move. So, and here's the other thing. If you want to put 2% or 3% return, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath in North Salinas, patio home, will easily rent for $3,500. I have people that rent theirs for $3,000. I did a little cost analysis on $3,000. The house is easily worth $600,000. So after expenses, he makes 3.5% and puts up with the maintenance problems and the headaches. He can take his $600,000, go to Chase, get 4.4% return, and doesn't have to fix a bathroom, doesn't have to do anything. So when we start talking about a fair return on investment, where do you think he wants to move his money? And you're going to mess with tenants or with the landlords. When you attack landlords, they leave. That's why my daughter is no longer a landlord in Salinas. And if I decide to start selling, there's other people, like I said. Condo on Nisa. It's been a rental since 2003. My client called me and said, hey, sell it. These are all families that are being displaced. And when we start talking about homeless, first I'd like a definition of homeless. We think that's people without homes. But if multiple families live in a house, they're homeless. They all should have a bedroom per kid, and that's called, they're now situated in a home. The people that are on the street, I read the study, and it said the people who are homeless and on the street, 80% of them have bunked out of drug rehab. Okay? And you go down there, they're not the person that's working and stumbling along. It's the person that would rather live in the street so they can afford the drugs. So that's a lot to digest, but I'm going to tell you, when you start attacking landlords, you'll have fewer of them. I think I've said enough.
With all the respect that you guys deserve, I just want to say that that you guys have taken advantage of all the communities here in Salinas, mostly the farm workers and the low-income family. And you guys know that you guys are doing business with these communities, and also taking like generating money from this money that you guys get from rent. That's why you guys don't understand why we are here today. Just to communicate that we are fighting for justice. We're not fighting because of you guys not wanting to come to an agreement. We're here because we know that you guys are taking advantage of the people here in Salinas. And we heard from Maricela, from Jesus, and from that lady, that's wearing green shirt right there, says that if we can't afford the houses here in California, that we should move. That's not the solution for this problem that we're seeing in Salinas right now. So I just want to say that.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Consuelo Rosales.
Hi, my name is Consuelo Rosales.
Y como lo dijo hace un rato el compañero, ¿verdad? No venimos en ningún momento venimos a agredirlos.
We're not here to fight with you guys.
Venimos a colaborar con ustedes.
We're here to collaborate with you all.
Para que pensemos que para tener una comunidad.
To have a community.
Aquí en Salinas, lo único que pedimos es que también sean accesibles.
To have a community here in Salinas, and the only thing we're asking is you guys can be more accessible.
Nosotros somos gente del campo.
We are farm workers.
Inclusive yo pago por una propiedad $4,500 de renta.
I pay $4,500 for my rent.
Lo cual me veo en la penosa necesidad.
Which, with embarrassment, I see myself
de tener que exponer a mi familia.
That I have to expose my family.
Lo cual tengo que meter a otras personas para que podamos pagar.
So I have to rent some other people that I don't know into my house so I can be able to pay this high cost of rent.
Sin saber qué tipo de personas estoy metiendo en mi casa.
Without knowing who's the person that will rent this room in my house.
I would like we have to listen to you, listen to you. We listen to you. She's speaking and you just have a private conversation with me or all the other. So it's not polite.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y creo que aquí dice,
I believe, and here it says,
vivienda es un derecho humano.
Housing is a human right.
¿Acaso ustedes no tienen el mismo derecho que lo tengo yo?
You guys, as you guys have the right, we also have the right to have an accessible house.
Yo también contribuyo para la economía de Estados Unidos. Yo también
I
pago
also
impuestos.
contribute to the economy. I pay my taxes as well.
Venimos a colaborar con ustedes.
We're here to collaborate with you guys tonight.
Pero que también se conecten, no nada más con su bolsillo, sino que se conecten con el corazón. Somos humanos.
We want you guys to connect with us, not just with your wallet, but we really want you guys to connect with us tonight.
Así que muchas gracias por su atención y esperemos colaborar con ustedes.
Thank you so much for your attention. We are hoping to collaborate with you.
Humanidad es lo que ocupamos aquí en Salinas. Humanidad.
Humanity.
Hello everyone, buenas noches a todos. My name is Victor Carales. I'm the political organizer for Monterey Bay Central Labor Council. We represent about 37,000 workers in Monterey and Santa Cruz County, including social workers, behavioral health workers, firefighters, teachers, nurses, you name it. We're the unions of the unions, and we're, part of this great community all together. Let's work for a solution. I said it at the last meeting, at the THC meeting. Let's work together. It's easy. Let's figure it out. Let's brainstorm. Let's work as a community. Let's show some respect, some justice, and caring for one another. Thank you so much. Looking forward to working with you all.
Before I pass to Rose, I just want to add a couple things. We have heard we have issues in our community, hands down, again and again. We keep hearing that. We've also heard from landlords that they can't sustain providing rental housing at a cap of 2%. We need to come together for solutions that create housing and continue this conversation and work together as property managers, landowners. We should be standing up for tenants who are being abused. All together. We should be standing up to landlords who are taking advantage of other tenants. It should not be acceptable in our community, ever. And that's conversations that we need to keep having with each other. I'll go ahead and pass to you, Rose.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being up there. It is not easy. My name is Rose Clark. I'm your local realtor, but I have been in this community. I was born here in Salinas. I come from a background of parents working in the fields. From 1948 on, we own several restaurants here in Salinas that are Mexican restaurants. So, primero que todo, quiero decirles a la gente que no habla inglés que mi nombre es Rosa María Juárez Clark, que tengo viviendo aquí en la comunidad muchos años y mi familia empezó en el field también. Era trabajador del campo, a 1 hora sin vuelo en Apio, me acuerdo de mi papá. Whenever I smell celery, it brings me memories of my dad when he used to come home. Even though I wasn't here with him because I was raised in Mexico, therefore, por eso hablo también el español, that's why I speak Spanish. But that's a little history of me. What I want to tell you here is that it's lack of communication. Es el no saber lo que en realidad está pasando aquí. La gente que está allí con los pancartas quiere igualdad, sí, pero esta no es la manera de encontrarla. No aquí gritándole a las personas que son los dueños de su casa. A ellos no son los que tienen la culpa. Ellos tienen derecho, con el trabajo que ellos tienen, de encontrar la casa que ellos pudieron comprar y ahora se la rentan a ustedes. Now these people that have their own properties, the landlords, they work very hard to get what they have. And now they have it and they rent it to you guys. They're not the enemy. They're here to help you. Hablen con ellos, speak to them, speak to the city council, the board of trustees. Those are the people you want to yell at. Esos son los que ustedes tienen que gritarles al concilio de Salinas, a la Cámara de Comercio de Trustees. Ellos son los que tienen que ayudarles ahora. Esta gente que está aquí no es fácil de estar diciendo todas las cosas. Por favor, ténganle más respeto a ellos, ténganle más respeto a las personas que tienen sus casas y que quieren ayudarlos. Speak to the landlords. One of the questions she asked was how many here own or how many here rent directly to the owner of the property. Yo creo que no escucharon bien que aquí una de las preguntas fue ¿cuántos aquí rentan del dueño de la propiedad? Muy pocos, o si no, no entendieron. Todos aquí rentan a las personas que tienen sus compañías, que son los que esta gente está abogando para que les ayuden con sus casas. ¿Tienen cucarachas? Vayan con la gente aquí de la ciudad. Vaya y ponga un reporte. Que vengan a ver que tengo cucarachas aquí, sáquenlos. A ellos son las personas que tienen que demandar. No a la gente que tiene sus casas y se las está rentando a ustedes. Por favor, edúquense. Hay gente como yo que les puede dirigir a dónde ir a hablar con ellos. There's people in this room. All you have to do is ask them. They will direct you to where you need to go to ask for help. No, don't be a victim. We all have humanity. We're humans. That means we have humanity. And we care about you. But please, care about them too. No, I'm not a landlord. I own my own house, but I work very hard for that. The people that are out there in the streets, my heart goes out to them. But it's not your fault here. No es la culpa de todos los que están aquí, de la gente que no tiene casas. Por favor, hagan algo para educarse. Se los digo de todo corazón. Thank you so much for listening to me. That comes from my heart.
I think first off, this has been an interesting turnout, and I feel we're probably going to walk away a lot more stressed out than we did when we came here. And that might have to do with our break in communication. Lo que ahorita, voy a tratar de decirlo otra vez en español. Vamos a salir de esta junta más estresados que cuando llegamos. Y eso es parte de la falta de comunicación efectiva. I think that's the bridge right now. It just feels like that's the bridge that we need to build. Because we're going to continue supporting our neighbors. We have since February, desde el febrero estuvimos comunicando, hablando, colectando firmas para una petición y entregamos ya casi como 4,000, 5,000, 5,000 firmas. So since February, we have been going out to our community, going out to the shopping centers, going out into the streets, door knocking, holding community meetings. Actually, I can point back to August of last year, and these stories have just been growing. It's overwhelming now, and basically, yes, we can continue hearing the stories of the good landlords and good property owners, and we can hear the call for solutions, but I think there's a lot more that's going to be required of all of us to understand and see each other. There were many other tenants that would be here, would want to be here, but they're afraid. They are afraid that they're going to be seen and they're going to be targeted. They feel alone. It is a very heavy load that we're carrying. I heard the gentleman's solution was to put it on ag, the ag industry. Ahorita estuvimos hablando, explicó el señor que los patrones, que ellos son responsables porque no están subiendo los salarios para alcanzar la renta. If we can, we're bleeding. My neighbors are bleeding right now. I'm waking up and I see them parked in front of our house with their jackets as curtains in their cars. We need to stop the bleeding, and rent stabilization or more protection or more attention to our renter community, which is 53%
63% of this city. 66 in Monterey, right, Esther? But if we're gonna end the conversation, if it sounds like we keep hearing the end of this conversation that, well, we just need to build more homes. We've been hearing that since 2007, 2003. We've been hearing that since then.
But have you fought for it? Have you fought for it?
And RJ, for you to put that on me?
Put it on all of us. It's on all of us.
It is on all of us. But please, see what you just did right now, Audrey? You just put it on me. Yeah, you just, sorry, Audrey. Sorry, Audrey. Sorry, I apologize. But it's that's right now, we need to stop the bleeding for our neighbors. Thank you.
This is mostly a question for the landlords and the developers. It was mentioned that affordability and housing increases the cost of housing. So in that case, what is the solution if obviously demand is high for market rate rentals and housing? If everything goes market rate, is there just no more affordability? Does it get pushed to the margins as it has in the past? What are some of your ideas or solutions regarding this affordability and how it ties into affordability of both rent and housing and strict it was mentioned that affordability increases the cost of housing, and there's high demand right now. So if affordability gets replaced, what happens to all the people that can't pay market rate housing? Does it just get not built? Does it get squished? What are some of your ideas and solutions?
So I don't think I put it in an affordability context. What I said is in the supply and demand. When there is a supply, it's just like anything in the chain of manufacturing. When there is a supply, prices either flat or go down so that they can move that supply, because you can't get stuck with inventory in whatever context you want to use it in from a marketing standpoint, whether it's houses or cars or whatever it is, or apartments. When there's a demand, as there is right now, because there's nothing available, we get units that people move out of to go elsewhere, or they're doing whatever they're doing. If we get 3 or 4 units that become vacant in a month, they're rented in 2-3 days. So when there's a demand, people can ask for a lot more, because it's whatever the market will bear. What is that person willing to pay to live there? And that's what most people are going to try to get. And that's where the 1482 came into play and things like that came into play. With the supply, like I said, when there is a supply, there's going to be choices. And we're going to hurt ourselves. We have a bunch of apartments. We start putting new apartments and affordable houses in the future growth area, and people that live in our apartments that have the incomes to be able to afford are going to move out. Now I'm going to have vacancy. So if I start having more and more vacancy in the apartments, what am I going to do to keep people there? I'm going to drop the rent to keep people there, because I'd rather lose $50 or $100 than to lose $1,900 a month, right? So it's economics. That was the point I was making.
I'd like to say something on that point, because it's really important, because the market goes like this, and it goes like this, and it goes, and it has its up and down in ways. When that gentleman puts more product on the market, which what we really need, it allows other landlords who have to compete now. That means they have to fix their units to get that rent, because they won't rent an uninhabitable apartment like they can today. And that's why supply is important, because it keeps an even keel in the market, and it always causes other landlords to say, I have to keep my property up and in shape to be competitive. Otherwise, I will have a vacancy factor and I will lose a lot more money by not maintaining them. That's what the market does. Unfortunately, the marketplace today is out of whack because they haven't built enough units for this area, period. And that isn't something the landlords did. This is what government does. It is their domain to provide ample amount of housing stock, zoning, so the developers like this gentleman and there's other ones like that build units can build them, and they keep the market at an even keel, at a reasonable rate of return. Because at the end of the day, the market will stop building when it's saturated with so many units that it can't absorb it and it can't make a reasonable profit.
You can't have it overnight. It takes years.
Well, I wanted to say that I am from Southern California, and I moved here 34 years ago, and I have lived in a rent control area. I have lived in Santa Monica, and so I don't know if any of you have been to Santa Monica, but where I lived in Santa Monica, I lived in the rent control area, and it wasn't pretty. And the landlord did absolutely nothing to our area. So if you think it's better, I can tell you from someone who's lived in that area, it wasn't better. And I can tell you now as a renter, I can give you an earful of what I wish was better. And so I've heard both sides. I want to be a judge in my life, and so I love hearing both sides of a problem. So that I can share with you. What I think is we're experiencing here is we don't have the city here, we don't have the county here, we don't have a representation of our ag employers here, and I think that's almost criminal. Because if you look at what TNA did for their housing, it was an example across the nation, actually. And more of our ag companies should be doing that for their employees. In fact, I think we have a second employer ag company that did do that on Roanoke. And it was wonderful. And I think that we had some of our field workers here tonight, and they do deserve housing. And anytime any of us put our fork in the salad, I think we should remember who helped pick that and put it on our plate. And I mean, I'm very grateful for that. I think it's very hard work. And I think grower shipper or anybody that works in that industry, we should have them at the table and figure out how we can brainstorm and figure out how we can get our employers to help make this a reality. Because the homeless issue is encroaching on their land as well. So who can we bring to the table to solve this issue? And those people aren't here tonight. And that's a problem. It's a serious problem. But by getting angry at each other isn't helping. So anyway, those are issues that I think are important. But I can tell you that when like I said, I've lived here 34 years. I heard these issues 34 years ago. So you know what? Even the people that got angry tonight, it's their issue too, because they had their hands over their ears. I don't know about you, but I heard this story when I was little. For those people that got mad, there was this story about, who didn't have a problem throw the first rock. So you know what? I'm guilty too. I didn't do something about the woman who paid all that money in her rent, or this mom who got really pissed off tonight. So I apologize to all those Because I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what to do. I do not know how to solve this problem. And it has made me really sad. Because I work for Grower Shipper. And I work for the hospital. So, you know what? There isn't anybody who convinced me that this problem just happened a couple of years ago, that we didn't have housing. Because this problem was here 34 years ago when I moved here. That there were 4 families or 6 families living in a house. Because I heard it. Because here's a girl from Orange County that moved here and was like, how many people are living in a house? I was shocked. I didn't know about that kind of stuff. So, you know, I don't know, but this didn't just happen. So, again, I'm sorry I didn't do anything, but I'm willing to help, and I'll do whatever I can to help. Just sign me up.
Well, and this is our call. This is our call to action for everyone to join together. It's not me saying, as it's felt, you need to go to the city, you need to do that. We need to do it together. And that was the intent of this group getting together, was one, to hear each other, because we don't communicate enough. We don't share our stories enough. We don't hear the other side enough. And that was what this was intended for, was to share the other side, to hear each other, and then to choose to work together. Choose to solve a problem that hasn't been solved, and as you heard today, will not be solved with rent stabilization. We will lose housing. So what is the fix? How do we fix that? That's the conversation that I would like to continue with everyone, if everyone's willing to continue talking more and put an action plan together so that we can truly solve these problems within our community.
Even with the ordinance, it's not going to be fixed overnight, right? No matter what happens, that's not going to ever be fixed, right? And Milton Friedman said, one of the great mistakes is to judge policies and programs by their intentions. Well, I feel like I could be loud enough, right? But anyhow, Milton Friedman said, one of the great mistakes is to judge policies and programs by their intentions rather than the results. No matter what happens, if they put the rent stabilization in with the strictest policies, it's not going to fix anything tomorrow. Like zero, nothing, right? And that's the problem. So we have to come together and speak our opinions, discuss what's really going to work. We have a lot of wonderful landlords who are below market. They've expressed that well enough. We have several that are at market and many that are above, right? So that Mr. Nice Guy pays the consequence for the guy who's not being as nice. And it's really difficult for everybody in our entire community. We have to come together as a community. We can't do this individually. We have to remember we are human. We have to be kind to one another. Work together, right? Our common goal is to work together. Again, it's not the landlord's responsibility to subsidize rent. Right? This is our government. It's a lack of housing. It's not going to appear overnight. Rents are not going to go down. I promise you tomorrow, your rent will not be decreased. If that's what you think is going to happen, it's not going to happen. And I think those frank conversations need to happen. Rip off the Band-Aid, right? Your city council, I'm just going to say it, I don't feel like they care, right? Those tenants who walk in my office and pay their rent every single month, and they cry to me, I care. I see them. They're my customers, right? Those are my customers, and then my property owners are my clients. Well, we all care about each other, and we all have to work together. This is what we need to be doing as kind humans. But we cannot mistake the intentions here of what somebody wants. I don't know what all of the intentions are from the government overreach, but the government overreach is outrageous. We just need to work together to figure out what's going to really work to help protect our tenants. Thanks.
We're about our time for the venue, so thank you everyone for coming out. This was a tough conversation and a lot of emotion shared, so thank you everyone for making the effort and having the tough conversation.